Hey guys, welcome to another video and thanks for clicking on this one. In this video, let's talk about some of the things that you can start doing in order to start your preparation for the upcoming Cadet programs that I often talk about on this channel and any Cadet program out there, to be honest. At the end of the day, these Cadet programs often have similar requirements and often do go through similar processes when it comes to the selection stages. So everything that I'll be sharing in this video will gear towards those who are looking for those type of opportunities and are looking for that extra information that can help. I've been covering these programs for over maybe 4 or 5 years now. I'll say about 4 years. And the knowledge that I've acquired in the industry has really helped me to be able to point a lot of people in the right direction. So if you're somebody who is looking for, information, feel free to check out the channel. Feel free to watch the videos. I'm sure you will benefit from it. But while we're at it, please don't forget to drop a like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. It goes a long way. And of course, turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss the next video. There will be times when there's not much to talk about. That's the honest truth about it. And if I don't make a video, it's all because, well, there isn't much going on and I don't have much to say. But one thing I want you to know is that a lot of these videos tend to get a bit repetitive, not because there's nothing new, but because the information is often similar. No matter the Cadet program, the requirements may be slightly different, right? Because of the airline and the things that they want. But when it comes to selection processes and how to go through this, the test that you have to do or the interview that you have to go through, they're all very similar. So it gets a bit repetitive when it gets to that point. But at the end of the day, we're going to talk about everything that is unique and different for each program. But for this video, let's talk about the first thing that I would like you to understand is that if you're looking for any opportunity when it comes to these pilot selection processes that you have to go through, you have to understand that a lot of preparation goes into getting through the digital assessments, the online assessments, the computer tests, and all that. And they often are segmented into different areas. You may have some that might require you to do some interview or a pre-recorded video. You may have some that may require you to do some tests. And those tests are generally what gets to weed out a lot of people. And that is where your preparation now goes a long way. If you're looking to apply to programs that will start in, say, January, February next year, this is the perfect time to start preparing. You have the month of November and month of December, a couple of weeks in between to make sure that you are up to speed with the things that may be necessary. For example, some simple math, GCSE level school or high school math level, sometimes are often required, and your ability to have that information down to a T, which means you can easily, solve problems and answer questions, will go a long way. And that is where you want to start taking the time now. So if you are somebody who's left school for a while, then you may want to start thinking about refreshing knowledge of some of this basic maths. It goes a long way because that's how you can get through, I think, the hardest part of this assessment. You may have the quantitative easing assessment. You may have the numerical reasoning assessments. Those type of assessments can seem very easy, but when you haven't done it in a while, it may throw you off. So you may want to review them, and that's where PASS comes in. If you haven't seen PASS, check out the link below. They do offer a lot of pilot selection assessments that you can go through to refresh yourself on some of these things. Now, you have to understand that it will be different. There's always a slight difference in the actual assessment. That is normal, but at least you have something to practice with. And I think PASS does a good job at that. So if you haven't checked it out, please check it out below. And I think there's a discount code with my Stephen Aviate code down there as well, which you can use. Now, the next thing that I would want anybody to start thinking about at this stage is a list of your experiences. And when I say list of it, I'm talking about actually writing it down. And the easiest way to go about this is to actually look at some interview questions that you may have seen online, or maybe even ChatGPT, right? A lot of those questions sometimes, because ChatGPT does a lot of collection of this data, right? So by using something like that, you can actually get a feel for the type of questions you can be asked. And one thing that I want you to remember is that the issue isn't answering the question. The issue isn't having something to say. The issue is actually how you deliver the information, how you express yourself, how you make sure that your competencies are shared in that information. That is really the problem that I see a lot of people have. I've done interviews in the past as an instructor, and I often tell people that, your ability to share and deliver on exactly what is requires, that you practice the delivery itself. And that is where, maybe sitting down with somebody can help, especially someone who is experienced in the aviation industry can help. That is where maybe watching some of these videos, there's some videos out there that actually talks about interviews as well. You can watch them, but I've shared a lot of tips on this in my previous videos, depending on the program. The issue is always how you deliver the information. And that is where you have to focus on those part of competencies and think about, in the list of competencies, about 8-9 of them that there are, how can you talk about your experiences while underscoring or highlighting those competencies? That will be very key in this process. And that is where a lot of people struggle. Because, for example, if they asked you, tell me about the time you had to lead a team and failed, right? A lot of people will struggle with that. And even for myself, I would have to think about that beforehand before I actually come to an interview. All right. I have to actually think about the experience itself. When, where, how, why, right? And what I learned from it. What I took away from it and how I've used that experience to actually make myself better, a better leader. Those areas needs to be mentioned when you are delivering your information. And that is where a lot of people fail, because a lot of people start with, how they failed, what happened, and they end there. Failing to realize that the story that you just narrated or the experience you've just narrated hasn't really shared with the person interviewing you how you are a good leader. You've just told me a story. That's all you've done. You haven't told me how you are a good leader. And a good leader, somebody who has the skills, will be able to tell the story, but also share what went wrong and how they fixed it. And last but not least, how they've been able to implement the lessons from that story for better outcomes. So it's always a sandwich type process where you lay out the first thing, right? Like the bun, the sandwich, the bun, right? But then you have the bun being the first foundation of the story, right? The first one. The meat is actually the details of the story. And of course, the top layer would then be how you resolved it, but then what you took away from it. That would make it a solid story and something that shares the competencies you possess with an interviewer. And this is where practice come in, all right? And this is where making a list come in as well. So if you look at the list of competencies there are, ask yourself these questions. How have I demonstrated this competency? How have I failed at demonstrating this competency? What lessons have I learned in demonstrating this competency, right? And how have I used it for a positive outcome? Now, when you make a list of those type of stories as you go along each of those competencies, and by the way, you have to remember that things like automated flight control, flight path management skill, automation, flight path management, manual, those are part of the competencies, by the way, if you don't know what those are, but they are not required to be tested when it comes to interviews, okay? But you will still be tested maybe through a simulator, sometimes maybe through a computer program in those areas. So when you're making those lists, look at these competencies. About 6 of them do have those type of questions they can ask you, like, tell me about the time you failed to be a professional, or tell me about the time you failed to lead a team, or tell me about the time you didn't achieve something, right? A goal that you failed to achieve. Those type of questions are things that you really want to have your hands around and make sure that you have the solid information to talk about. Remember, the key is to lay down the facts, but also what you've learned and how you've implemented it. Those things will make your story solid, because that's what you communicate with the person that is interviewing you, and that's how you share that you have what it takes. Now, the next thing that I want you to then think about, so this will be the third one at this point, if I'm really listing it out, all right? This will be the third one. The next thing I want you to think about is this. You have to know about the airline or the program. Okay, so the airline/program, those will be the things that you want to keep in mind. If you don't know anything about the program, you want to study about the program. How is the program run? What are the selection stages? What is it all about? Like, read everything there is to read about the program. That is one. Then the next thing is the airline. Read everything you can get your hands on about the airline, their plans, what they do, the mission statements, the goals, all of that stuff. What is in the news about the airline? You have to be up to speed about that, because everything the airline does, maybe it's the business model, how they operate the airline, all of that, those will be necessary, especially as you work on your introduction part of your of who you are. Why do you want to work for this airline, right? You have to understand that. Why do you want to be part of this organization? Why did you apply to the Cadet program? And this is where knowing about the airline, knowing about the program will help you to structure your answer. This will be key to your success. Okay. Now, in addition to knowing about the airline, knowing about the program, the next thing you want to think about is yourself, right? Why do you want to be a pilot? This will come up every single time. Every single airline will ask you, why did you apply to the program? Why do you want to be a pilot? Why are you interested in flying for the airline? Why do you want to be here? Why do you think this Cadet program is right for you? What challenges do you think you would experience? You see, everything comes down to those three groups: you, the airline, the program. You have to have a solid understanding of those. Okay. When you have a good understanding of those things, it would help you to succeed. Now, the last but not least, is regular practice. One thing is to know, one thing is to be able to deliver efficiently and accurately. And in order to be able to do that, practice has to be in the mix of it, right? You have to regularly practice the thing, practice the skill, practice answering the question, practice the assessment, practice. And the more you practice, the better you become. It's as simple as that. Okay, so do not waste time. Do not delay, because now we don't have all the time. You have the holidays coming, and then the next thing is you have all these programs running, and then it's back to back. And honestly, the best thing you can do is to be prepared, because it's going to pay off when the programs actually start. I hope that you found value in this one. I hope that you found some knowledge and gained something. If you have, please drop a like on the video, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I'd love to see you in a future one.